you for joining me today. We are going to be talking about focus. It is a fascinating subject, and a focused athlete definitely is a high-performing athlete. So we are going to work through some strategies that will help you become that high-focused athlete. There's 3 areas I want to cover. The first is the quality of your focus. How long are you able to maintain your focus for? The second is bringing your focus into the present moment and your own process. And the third is being conscious of what you are choosing to focus on. Usain Bolt, we all know him, right? One of the world's greats. Over 3 consecutive Olympics, he won 8 gold medals. He is a supremely focused athlete. You can see it. When he gets into those starting blocks, you just take a look at those eyes, and his full attention is on those next 9 seconds. I don't know if any of you saw the last Olympics. He did this a lot. And at first, I thought that he was asking the crowd to quieten it down. But upon discovery, what I learned was Usain does this motion here to say, shh, quiet the mind. And that was a physical gesture that he did to bring his attention back to his present moment. Greg Louganis, some of you may have heard of him, another great. He was an American diver. And in the Seoul Olympics, in the 3-meter springboard competition, in the preliminaries, he hit his head so hard on the board that there was blood in the pool and it required 5 stitches. Despite that, 30 minutes later, he went on to win gold in that event. It's pretty impressive, right? He was able to let go of that mistake and bring himself back into the present moment and focus on what he needed to do to be effective. But make no mistake, Greg Louganis would have had a strategy and plan to deal with when things go sideways, as they do in sport, to deal with loss of focus. He would have had a strategy going into the event. What am I going to do to regain my composure? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So when you have that ability to focus, it means you can focus during high pressure, you can regain focus when you need to, and you can stay in the present moment for as much as possible during your performance. So let's look at the quality of your focus. Let's see how long you are able to focus for. Now this is critical because unless you start becoming present to how your focus is, how long your focus lasts, you won't be able to actually notice when you've lost your focus and regain it. So this little exercise is just to shine a light on how long you're able to focus for. So right now, I'd like you to think of an object. Could be a piece of food, just a simple object. Could be a chair in your room or piece of furniture or your new favorite running shoes, doesn't matter. So get an image of that in your mind. And all I want you to do is close your eyes and focus on that object. And when you lose focus, as you will, we all do, just open your eyes and come back. Why don't you do that now? Okay, probably most of you are finished by now. It's a quick exercise. I have done this with entire teams, and about the average time that an athlete has focused is about 5.5 seconds. It's not very long. And I mean, that's okay. But could you imagine if you were competing against another person whose focus was longer than 5 seconds, say you were at 5 and that person was at 10 minutes, and you were of equal skill, who do you think would perform better? The more focused athlete. Yeah. Now, in all fairness, we have a lot vying for our attention these days. And there's, we've got our cell phones, they're pinging all the time. We've got messages coming in on our computer. We've got all of these devices, and there's a lot vying for our attention. So we've actually, in this century, our ability to maintain our focus has diminished. We think we're a great civilization of multitaskers. Well, in fact, it's scientifically proven that you cannot be a multitasker effectively. So what I want you to do now with that in mind is, now you have an idea of how long your focus lasts, kind of illuminating probably for some of you. I want you to take that same object, and for a minute, I want you to close your eyes and just focus on that object. But the critical piece is here, when you notice your focus wandering, I want you to gently bring it back to your object. So it is just this little dance you'll be doing. Mind wander, bring it back. Mind wander, bring it back. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute, and why don't you do that now? Okay, you can slowly open your eyes. Thank you for joining us again. So what did you notice? Were you able to focus a little longer? Was it easy to bring your focus back to your object? Were you mindful of when your focus did wander? Yeah, some revelations hopefully. So the reason I asked you to do that is just so you can start paying attention to your focus. I was working with this rugby team up in British Columbia, and I was doing a session on focus with them. And earlier that day, I went mountain biking, and our North Shore trails are pretty technical. I mean, we're known for our technical riding. And I was on a black diamond, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to focus on this run and really just become aware of my focus. And the stakes are high in mountain biking on a black run. You're not focused, you're going to possibly hurt yourself. Well, I realized how unfocused I was. And I realized how my mind was wandering when it should have been on the task at hand. So we all do it, and that's absolutely fine. The key piece here is recognizing when you're doing it and bring your attention back. Okay, so now we have some awareness of our own personal focus level. Let's talk about being in the present moment. When we are in the present moment, when our focus, that's what we call present focus. When it's on the present moment, we perform our best. In the present moment, there is no stress, no worry, no anxiety, no fear, no regret. We are just focused on our process, that task that we need to do to be effective on the field. Conversely, if we focus on outcome, results, our opponents, then we have worry, stress, anxiety, fear. So if you are noticing that you're very nervous or really anxious, a little bit of nerves is good. It can power you. It can give you momentum. But if you are feeling like it's overwhelming, most likely you are focusing on your outcome. So just bring your attention back to the present moment. Like Usain Bolt, with his physical gesture, he brings his mind back to the present moment. Before that, perhaps he was thinking about Am I going to be fast enough today? Am I going to win today? That's not helping him. Get back into your body. I had a pitcher I was working with, and a baseball pitcher, and he was having a hard time because when he threw a pitch that he didn't like, he'd be really hard on himself. There's probably many of you that can relate to this, where you're just beating yourself up over this crappy move you just made. Is that going to help you with the next pitch? Absolutely not. Now, when I said to him, I can't say to him, just let it go, because it's impossible to let something go, right? We need to replace it with another thought or an action. So what he decided to do, which was very effective, was when he threw a bad pitch, he'd just pick up a bit of soil very discreetly and just throw it behind him. And that was his action of just shrugging it off. So we have no control over our opponents. We don't have any control of how they show up, what their level of training is, what their level of fitness is, how their season is going. We have absolutely zero control over that. And when we focus on the things that we have no control over, that's when we get ourselves into trouble. We can definitely impact things, but we can't control. But what we can control is our own personal performance. How we show up mentally and physically, that is what we can control. So bring your focus, bring your attention to those things that you can control. I had a provincial level soccer player I was working with, and she was a striker. And she came to me very distraught, very upset. She was no longer scoring goals, and she had a tremendous amount of anxiety around it. She thought she was going to lose her place on the team, and the joy of soccer was gone, and in its place was anxiety and fear. Some of you might be able to relate to this. It happens, it's common. So I said to her, what do you need to be effective on that field? Give me one or two things that you really should be focused on regarding your own performance to be effective. And she told me those two things. I said, okay, next game, that's all I want you to think about. I don't want you to think about scoring goals. I don't want you to think about outcome or results. I want you to think about your own personal process. And that's what she did. And guess what? Things turned around for her very, very quickly. And the same can happen for you. So it's really critical, and I'm going to ask all of you now to consider what it is that you need to do to be effective on the field or in your sport. Just pick one or two things. And that's what I want you to focus on. It's your process, okay? And it could be your mental game, an aspect of your mental game, and it could be an aspect of your physical game. But you've done your sport long enough to know what you need to do to be effective. Every athlete I've ever asked that question to in over 20 years had an answer for me. You know it. It's there for you. So pick two things, and when you go to practice later today or tomorrow, that's all I want you to focus on. Okay? Not too difficult. And that's the first part. The second part is I want you to develop your own personal refocusing strategy. When you've noticed that you're starting to get anxious, you're starting to stress, you're starting to worry, what are you going to do in that moment to reboot your system? What are you going to do to bring your attention back to the present moment? Now I have two suggestions for you. One can be a physical action. So Usain did this, the pitcher did this, I had a hockey player that just slapped his thigh. I had a goalie that would reset a soccer goalie who would reset his posture. That's extremely effective. He put his shoulders back, got into that power pose, put a smile on his face, and he was rebooted, ready for the next point. If that doesn't resonate with you, pick a statement that you can say to yourself that will get you back into the game. So just this point, or just this serve, or I got this, I'm ready, I deserve this, I'm great. And say that to yourself. And then think about your process. So you know what? We all get in our own way. We all do. We do it all the time. It's part of the human condition. We get into our head. We go down these rabbit holes. It does not need to be the case any longer. So this is about hacking your flow state, getting into the zone. The choice is yours, but it takes a little bit of action and creating new habits. So take a minute now to write down what your process will be, what you will be focused on in your sport. It could be a skill, it could be, like I said earlier, your mental, some aspect of your mental game. Pick 2 things that you need to be effective. You know what the answer is to this. And then also I want you to write down a strategy for refocusing to get yourself back in the present moment. So take a minute, please. Do this now, and I will meet you for part B. Thank you.